I am so excited about today's Create This Book video, not only because the prompts we're doing today I found to be super inspiring, but also because Artex has partnered with me to bring you this video today, and I have this whole new box of markers to play with. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Paula, and let's get creative. So we are going to start with create an alter ego. I don't know why for this one, the first thing I thought about was drawing a unicorn. I thought it would be so fun to design a unicorn looking the opposite to what you would expect. I didn't think though it was going to be so hard for me to draw one. I really struggled with the proportions and making it look like a horse, but also having it wear clothes. The face was particularly hard, and then the mane. I'm really editing this down because it took me a really long time to create the sketch. And while I was doing that, my dog decided to join me on top of the desk again to be an art critic. She always looks so unimpressed. You can see how much I fiddled with this drawing, first with purple and then with red. Instead of keeping at it on the same page, I thought I would start again by tracing with pencil the parts that were okay. So now I had my unicorn and it was time to give her some personality. I started to add stuff to her, earrings or piercings, a bandana, a leather vest, rock star makeup. I wanted to make her completely different than my own idea of a cute unicorn that basically is inspired by My Little Pony. I wasn't loving her facial expression, so I started to play with different ways to draw her eyes. I felt she looked cute, but I want her to be more like confident and to show how proud and secure of herself she is, even if her looks did not fit my stereotype for a unicorn. Once I had an eye I liked, I drew her one more time. I know, it's so much time for just the sketch. And I added even more things to her. I felt this fourth sketch really helped me with the proportions, so on my fifth and final one, I loved her. I'm not boring you with more sketching, so here's that final drawing. She has a lot of accessories and more confidence too. I also think my first unicorn was like a little kid, and this one's more like a young adult. I really spent so much time on this drawing and adding all of the stuff onto her. Accessories, patches, a purse, boots, headphones, and a best friend. She has a little cat with an attitude. It's very unimpressed. Oh, like my dog. Well, I finally love it, so let's ink it and of course color it. I love how the coloring came up for this one. I usually don't love my coloring style that much, but this one I like. I think all of the details plus the purple color gives her personality a bigger push. I use my Artex markers to create some highlights and also bring in some saturated pinks. I also added a U on one of her patches and one of her purse thingies. It's from my new logo, and I thought it would be cute to make her a fan. Just having a little fun. To create the alter ego, I traced the basic shape of my character and changed some things. I changed the eyes and the way she has her makeup done. I also changed her best friend, which is now a bunny that's so happy and has no attitude. She's wearing a bow, flower bracelet, and a tutu. And I didn't do anything to the feet because I wasn't going to use the whole image, since my idea was to have her look at a mirror and see her alter ego. I, of course, colored her differently. I mean, the colors of her mane and body are the same, but her clothes are pink. She paints her face and her horn differently, and all of her little hair thingies are pink too. Okay, so now I finally have the main character and her alter ego, and I also have 2 color copies of each. The reason I made 2 copies is because I saw this tutorial on Pinterest, and I thought it would be a great idea to use for the mirror part, and having it reveal her alter ego once she sees her reflection. Oh, these ideas. In my defense, that tutorial looked easy, or easier. So I made all of the measurements and drew all the lines I needed to cut the images so they would fit together. You don't need all of the parts of the same image, you just need alternating parts to make one complete image of each, if that makes sense. If you want to understand it better, of course, I'll link the tutorial in the description. Anyhow, I cut everything, and when I was putting the strips together, I noticed my first mistake in the width of one of the cuts I made. Maybe I should have started over, but I chose to actually use it and just carried on and glued the strips of paper to an extra piece of cardboard. Again, I'm following the tutorial for this part of the process, all of it. Then I glued the pink strips to the rectangle I was using for the mirror, following the steps and trying to make it work even with the mistake I made. I wasn't able to glue one side, but I think that ended up helping. Maybe, you'll see. I think I should note this was much harder than the tutorial looks. Maybe it's easier when you do it the second time, but I gotta tell you, our brains get easily deceived by short content. Everything looks easier. And I'm saying this about my own content too. Like, my short content, it's never as simple as I make it look. In any case, I had both parts ready, but I couldn't put them together. I could not weave them in. It was so hard. And it was in this moment of frustration as I battled with these pieces of paper that my 15-year-old daughter approached my desk with some words of wisdom.
You overcomplicate things.
I mean, we know this already, right? I made myself a medal on this very book to award myself for being an overcomplicator, if that's a word. Well, of course, I battled with it until I got it to work, and you don't need to see all 10 minutes of that. So here I am attaching the frame on top, and then I just glued everything into the book. Oh, wow, I spent all day on this prompt, literally like 8 hours. And just when I was about to finish it, my new box of markers arrived. Oh, yay! I was so excited. So here I am opening them, and I was super happy that the first thing I saw were fluorescent colors. Ah, I didn't know that. Had to try those immediately. And then I realized the set has metallics too. That gave me a burst of energy because I was literally exhausted after the unicorn page. And oh, I wanted to tell you, I'm not putting the markers on a nicer order before I put the stickers on them because I made that mistake with my first set, not realizing the stickers are in the exact same order as the markers in the box. So they are not switching places until I get those on. Okay, back to the page. I wanted to add this great mirror quote to it. I love that. Everything is internal. And then I also grabbed my brand new fluorescent marker to label the mirror. I thought this would make it easier to understand what's going on in here. Hey, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's my alter ego? And the point is she's beautiful with either reflection because she's herself. And she has a gorgeous heart inside. Finished page, more fluorescent details, and we finally get to move to the next prompt, which I honestly started on the next day. Create energy. Make this page look like pure energy. I was excited to create this page with my new super bright markers. The first thing I did was to draw some very simple mandalas in Procreate using the Drawing Assist tool, which is like magic, honestly. This took 5 minutes. Drew them, printed them out, and I started to color them. But while I do that, let me explain why I'm drawing mandalas for a page that asks to create energy. I think somewhere in my thought process there was a little bit of a disconnect from energy to what I made. Can't wait to hear what you think, but what happened was that after thinking about it for a long time, the only idea I had was to show human energy through chakras. I thought since they are represented in rainbow colors, it would be beautiful to make them into colorful mandalas. So I started to paint 7 mandalas with monochromatic color schemes in rainbow order. And I thought these mandalas would be easy to use in the same way as these pop-up flower cards I've been seeing all over social platforms. I thought, wow, this colorful thing popping up will really show energy. Now I'm not so sure if it represents energy, maybe it's just something colorful and happy. Again, you'll be the judge. I very enthusiastically colored each one, excited to use my new markers because with these I could paint over colors I wasn't so happy about, and I also could add little details on top of my very simple designs to make them look more beautiful and energetic. It was a long process, I'm guessing very long, but I can't really tell you how long it took me because it was so lovely and enjoyable, I didn't really keep track of time. Once I had them all colored, I cut each one into circles, which I then folded in sections so it would look more like they had petals. Cut them and glued them together into these little flowers. I fold the flowers in half and then glued them following one of the tutorials so that they would all pull together when opening the book. Brought the book in and this is how it would look. I thought, it's so tiny. How could it be full energy if these flowers occupy so little space? So you know what? After all the hours I put into creating this mini bunch, I decided to print them again in a much larger size. Here's the comparison. Color them, cut them, glue them into flowers, and put them together once again. Here's the book again, and I thought for the colors to pop out more, I would use a darker background. So I'm using this very thin colorful paper as a background. It's the same one I use for my collab page, which if you haven't seen the Create This Book collab, I recommend you do. It's really amazing to see all different artists with different approaches in one single book. I can't wait for the next episode to come out. The background is in, so I glued my flowers, and when I opened it, I realized I probably made a mistake because it wouldn't open fully. It was sort of stuck. I couldn't figure it out, and then my daughter pointed out that all I needed was more flowers. So I guess that meant I was completely ditching the chakras and their 7 colors. I listened to her advice and I created 3 more flowers that I glued on top. The taking out the flowers and fixing it left some white marks from the glue ripping the paper out. So I covered those a bit by drawing some leaves with my markers because I was loving using those neon colors on a darker paper. It is done and I think it's a beautiful spread. It made the book super thick, but I think it worked. I also painted the prompt and I don't know, I'm really happy with it, although I'm not sure if the idea makes sense. It's just something beautiful I made. Okay, next prompt, community. I had no clue what to do, but I got so many lovely suggestions from y'all that I got very inspired. I decided to create a little village of houses very similar to something I made in one of my sketchbook videos. Let me show it to you. Here it is. The only difference is I thought I would do the houses on 3 diagonal rows. As I was sketching, you can see how the lighting in my studio area was changing. It was already the golden hour and it quickly became nighttime. I had again spent most of my day creating the previous prompt and now it was getting dark. And since I don't own lights and I film with daylight only, I thought I would continue my sketch off camera and here's what it looks like on the next day. It's changed so much from those very simple lines. Pinterest showed me this picture from the artist Tonya Kach, I don't know how you pronounce that, and I was super inspired to add more details to my drawing. I created a little mouse village and I added a bunch of details like plants and mushrooms. I had so much fun with this illustration. I think it felt very light because I wasn't filming and I was doing it at night when I was in a very relaxed state, done with work, wrapping up the day, watching TV with my daughter. And as you can probably guess, this took a very long time to color. I'm only using the new box of markers on this illustration so you can get an idea of the range of colors the blue box has. And of course, it was really nice to color in with them since the markers can be layered to create some details like the shingles on the roof or the texture of the moss on top of that chimney. As I said before, it took me about 3 hours to color this, so I guess it's better to, again, show you the process with an art montage. Done with the coloring, and you can see it's very bright and cheerful. I love it. Because I did use paint markers, I have to go over my outlines again just to make it more crisp, and I also wanted this illustration to be more cartoony. But this took a long time too, so again, let me just do a quick transition to show you the end result. Here it is, and now it's time to populate this community and do the interactive part. So I marked the back of the page with the windows I want to be able to open, so I could put some packing tape on the back of each of those to make the paper stronger. After that, of course, I cut them so they could open, and I grabbed an extra piece of paper to slip in the back so I could mark the space I had to draw characters in. Drew them, colored them, and now it was time to put everything into the book, and here it is. Everything's glued in, and let me show you all of those little windows I created. On the top window, I brought back my strong, resilient mouse that I drew on one of my first episodes. Then here's a little flirty mouse looking at the strawberries she's planted. Then we have this guy who just grabbed one of the flowers, and here someone left a cup of tea in the windowsill. Here's a little mouse with glasses, another one reading up there, and down here we have a little mouse that's going out to play with his car. Oh, and I also added this butterfly on top that I drew. I thought it was kind of beautiful to have her resting on a rooftop. Next prompt, and it says create starbursts. Draw lines stemming from the dot on this page. I really wanted to use my fluorescent markers again to do the starbursts, and the best would have been black or blue paper as a background, but I had already used those, and I didn't want to go out to buy more since I already had taken so long on this book. So I thought I would use this very dark magenta color, and I swatched the fluorescent and metallic markers on the edge there, just to see which ones look better on the color of paper. I decided I would go with some of the fluorescent by using the purple, pink, and yellow. I traced the dot from the book and also marked the places where the prompts were so I can cut them out. Fixed both pieces of paper so that they wouldn't move as I drew the lines and the spread would look cohesive. And I grabbed the ruler and started to draw lines. I wanted to color in the spaces between the lines to have thicker rays, but for some reason it was really hard to do with the yellow marker. It kind of felt like it was drying out. I thought I would help by laying down a layer of a lighter yellow down first, and then I went in with the fluorescent yellow. It was still not great and I got frustrated, so I replaced the yellow with orange on the largest one because the orange just flowed much better. I added a couple more lines to tie this new color to the composition and the starbust is done. But I ask you, what is a starbust without a star? This needed a star and a circle. The circle is for me to create a little paper hinge because the interactive part of this page is going to be the star just being able to move around. So I'm marking the center of the starburst to create a hole through which the paper hinge will go through. And I couldn't get the camera to focus properly on it, but these paper hinges are very simple to make. It's just a circle on which you cut two long flaps that bend to go into a hole you punch on another piece of paper. I wasn't sold on the color of the paper I had for my star, so I painted it with the orange marker to make it match better. Needed to punch out that hole in the middle of the starbursts. For that, I used my single hole punch by folding the page a little bit so I could do it in the middle. Punch that out and I have my hinge going through it. I moved it to make sure the hole is the right size, and I actually made it a little bit bigger with my pencil too. Then I just glued the star onto the hinge and made sure when I glue this paper into the book, I used the glue just around it and nothing too close to the paper hinge to allow the paper mechanism to move freely. Here comes the book. I'm gonna glue everything in and here we go. This was a very simple prompt compared to the previous ones, but I really like the result. I also decorated the prompt with the neon markers to make it all match. I love it. Next prompt says create a swarm, but sadly, I don't have time to tackle this one today, even though I already have an idea for it. I'm going to have to leave this episode here since it has already taken over 4 days. Thank you, Artex, for partnering with me to create this book today, and thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Don't forget to let me know what was your favorite prompt of the day, and I hope I'll see you next time. Have the most wonderful day. Bye!